especial informação nesta noite de terça-feira, aqui na SIC, o caso McCann em destaque, porque se estiver viva, Madeline faz hoje 6 anos. A correspondente da SIC em Londres esteve com os pais de Madeline. É uma entrevista exclusiva para Portugal em que contam o seu dia-a-dia, 2 anos depois do desaparecimento da filha.
How would you describe the last 2 years for you? How have you lived them?
It's been awful. Let's face it. Anybody who's had a child taken would say the same thing, and it's been the longest 2 years of our life, without a doubt. But at the same time, the last few months were so busy that it really flies by, sometimes too quickly.
And obviously the first few days are the worst days of my life, and I think unless you've been in a situation like that, you'd have no concept of how painful it was. And each day obviously is painful. I mean, it doesn't, we miss Madeline beyond words, so every day is hard and painful. It's not as raw as it was obviously in those first few days, but it's still incredibly difficult. But it's just the hope of finding Madeline really that keeps us going. I
think that's really important. That's why we're here, because there are things, we are still hopeful, there are things that can still be done.
How much is still part of your daily lives? How much do you live with her in the house?
It's huge. Huge part of her life. She's around us all the time. She's part of where we live, who we,
We're a family of 5, and her absence is tangible. We're obviously trying to find Madeline. I work to try and find Madeline every day. Sean and Emily talk about Madeline every day. She's around the house. She belongs in the house. And she's always with us. We just.
When this whole thing happened, the twins were very young. Now 2 years on, how do they understand what happened to their sister? How do they cope with it?
Well, they don't fully understand. They know Madeline's missing. They know that we're all looking to find her, and they talk very positively about when Madeline comes home. She's a huge part of their life. She was in their life obviously since they were born.
They are doing brilliantly, and they also know that it's wrong that she's not with us, and they believe that she's been taken away, and we don't know where she is, but people are looking for her. And we've obviously had professional advice about how to cope with bringing up children in this situation, and it's a case of, it's been made clear to us, you fill in the gaps as they ask and inquire.
You let them take the lead, really, so you give them as much information as they ask for.
Is Madeline's room still exactly how she left?
Yeah, and there's a lot of presents in there for her that
Some
new,
more after
and
tonight.
there's pictures that Sean and Emily have drawn. But yeah, there's a few additions in there.
What are your main fears of what could have happened to Madeline?
Our worst fears was, and it was very apparent early on, our worst fear was that Madeline had been abducted by a sexual predator, abused and killed. And in the first couple of days we found it difficult to imagine any other scenario than that. But I think, and it'll also be in the documentary tomorrow, usually in those situations the children are found and other bodies are found very, very quickly. And actually the lack of any evidence of harm to Madeline makes it more unlikely. As parents, I think that's the worst thing, isn't it? That you think people, law enforcement, the public are going to give up on your child, assuming that this child may be dead. But, there's no evidence. No
it's
evidence
just
to
so
suggest
wrong
that.
to assume. If there's no evidence that your child has come to any harm, how awful for that child to assume and give up. I mean,
Yeah.
About the documentary, obviously you didn't go back, but what was it like for you to be back at Praia da Luz?
It was we've wanted to go back for a long time. I think that's the first thing to say. We've got a lot of friends in Praia da Luz. We've had tremendous support, particularly from the community and the Catholic Church, and a lot of it also expats who we got to know reasonably well while we were there. So there were good bits about it. Obviously we're going back for a very specific focus, and I think we've managed to achieve that. We would like to be able to go back without causing, a media stir. And I think that's obviously one of the downsides of what's happened over the last 2 years.
Why a reconstructive documentary now? Why the decision to make it now?
A few of the sequences in the documentary are basically like reconstructions of events that happened around the time Madeline was taken. And we're desperate really for people to come forward if they know any information about those events, or it might jog a memory of somebody. And
over the last 2 years, there were big movements pro and against the McCanns. Is that still part of your lives? Does that still affect you in any way?
You're not immune from it, but I think it's the most important thing here to emphasise is it's not about Kate and I. It's not, and we would appeal to anyone to think about that. We're trying to find that little girl and find out who took her. And, people can pass on whatever information they want about us, but it's not about us, it's about Madeline and who took her. It's also true to say that, we are the only people proactively trying to get new leads. And that's quite hard to say, but, the onus has fallen on us to keep looking for Madeline.
Somebody might have seen something, and they may not think it's relevant, but it might be. There could be people who know something but for whatever reason haven't come forward. And the person that's taken Madeline is known to somebody. It's someone's son, grandson, cousin, partner, neighbour, brother. Somebody knows that person. Everybody is known to somebody, and they may have been sitting there thinking, I wonder if it's... And obviously, if it's someone that you'd like to think, you try and make it not the case. And I guess it's just saying, please, if you have any information or anything you think, please come forward. Madeline's missing. The sooner we find Madeline and the person who took her, this can be all over for everybody, and particularly Madeline, Mm-hmm.
This documentary comes out about the same time as Gonzalo Moral's film. Is this just a coincidence?
You'd have to ask him about that, but if anyone's seen it, I'd like them to compare what we have in the documentary that is based on trying to ascertain evidence and fact and proactively trying to find a child, not persuade the public that a child who's missing is dead without any evidence. And one has to ask themselves, why would someone do that? Why would someone try to persuade the public that an innocent missing child is dead? And that's unforgivable. We cannot forgive that.
Why does he not want to find Madeline?
He's certainly not doing anything to try and find her, whereas we are, and that's the difference. We're trying to find her and who took her, not persuade people about some ridiculous theories that are not backed up by any evidence whatsoever.
There's also been Gonzalo Moral's Birkin at the time. There was a lot of talk about possible legal charges brought up by you against Gonzalo Moral. Are you still considering these legal charges against him?
We certainly haven't ruled it out. The reason we haven't done it today is we didn't want to create, I think there's been enough Anglo-Portuguese angst, particularly in the media, and we certainly didn't want to exacerbate that, but he clearly is getting more outrageous, and we certainly wouldn't rule it out.
At the same time, it's a distraction, what Mr. Amaral is doing. I mean, it's damaging to our search, but at the same time, we want to find Madeline, we want to move forward and get new information, and we don't want to be derailed by negative people who have their own agendas, so...
That's a very good point. We don't want to look back, we're trying to do things, but it gets to the point where you just think enough's enough.
How have you worked as a couple? I mean, how do you support each other to go through the difficult stages, if there are more difficult?
I mean, it's very much what you say. We do support each other, and we've got tremendous family support and friends and a network, and that's incredibly important. And I know never doubted for a second that either of us have been involved, and we're completely together with a special bond with Madeline that we had when she was born, and
I mean, obviously we're kind of united in our aim to find her. You know.
And we do support each other.
It hasn't been an easy 2 years on many grounds, but you know, we were strong before this happened, and we've had amazing support, and we've got through. We love Madeline, we love Sean and Emily, and that's enough to keep you together and keep you going, you know. And maybe we're lucky from that point of view, I don't know. But
do you ever worry that the campaign will, in any way, harm the twins by giving them maybe less attention than Madeline's receiving from everybody?
It's very, they're a huge part of our life, and they help us tremendously because they bring tremendous joy to our life. And it'd be a terrible thing if, when they're a bit older and they say, "So what did you do to try and find Madeline?" And we turn around and say, "Well, they want to find her," and very much talk about when she comes home. And when you're having a bad day, that is a real pickup. There is no reason at this minute to believe Madeline cannot walk through that door.
Do you guys talk about when she comes home?
We do with the kids, and certainly when they bring it up.
Not so much with each other, because it's almost like it's so good. You kind of stop yourself, I think there's something that kind of...
I think until we've seen tangible evidence that Madeline is alive, there, a photograph, spoke to her, and we know that she's safe and has been rescued, it's hard to go there for us, because that would just be the most overwhelmingly joyful occasion for us. What
did you guys felt when you saw the new picture that was just published a few days ago of Madeline looking 2 years older than the last time you saw her?
That isn't how I remember Madeline. Obviously I remember Madeline 9 days before her 4th birthday, and I guess seeing her at 6, it's a reminder really of what Madeline has missed out on and what we've missed out on. But then at the same time I can appreciate how important it is, because it's very hard to visualise what she would look like at that age unless somebody presents you with an image. And we've had people send us photographs directly and say, "We're still looking for Madeline. Is this Madeline? We were on holiday and we saw this little girl." And it's a 3-year-old girl in the picture, so it's incredibly difficult for people, so we have to, I guess, remind people that she's 6 now and she does look older. And we believe this is a good representation of what, she may look like today.
It's her 6th birthday tomorrow. And will you mark that day in any way?
It'll be a very private, quiet family affair, but of course we will, yeah.
Pela minha parte é tudo. Deixo-vos com um documentário aguardado feito pelo canal britânico Channel 4. Por causa deste documentário, Jerry McCann regressou recentemente a Portugal para participar na reconstituição da noite em que a filha desapareceu.
I did my check about 10 o'clock and went in through the sliding patio doors, and I just stood actually, and I thought, oh, all quiet. And to be honest, I might have been tempted to turn around then, but I just noticed that the door, the bedroom door where the 3 children were sleeping, was open much further than we'd left it. I went to close it to about here, and then as I got to here, it suddenly slammed. And then as I opened it, it was then that I just thought, I'll just look at the children. And I could see Sean and Emily in the cot, and then I was looking at Madeline's bed, which is here, and it was dark, and I was looking and I was thinking, is that Madeline or is that the bedding? And I couldn't quite make her out. And it sounds really stupid now, but at the time I was thinking I didn't want to put the light on because I didn't want to wake them. And literally as I went back in, the curtains of the bedroom, which were drawn, but were closed, it was like a gust of wind, kind of just blew them open. And Cuddle Cat was still there, and a pink blanket was still there. I mean, I knew straight away that she'd being taken, you know.
Maddie, 2 anos de angústia.
Oh, sorry. Oh, get off me! Watch, Mommy doesn't get Mommy doesn't push as high as Daddy. Oh, no!
Passaram 2 anos desde que Madeleine McCann foi raptada enquanto passava férias em Portugal. Os pais, Kate e Jerry, vivem perto de Leicester com o irmão e a irmã de Madeleine, os gêmeos Sean e Amelie, de 4 anos.
We are a family, and we're a happy family, but we're not a complete family.
I think we're far from normality. We're far from normality, but we're closer than we were.
Mummy, can I get wristwater, please?
I will. What's the little word?
Please.
Thank you. What do you mix with white to get grey? What colour did you put?
Green.
No, what colour did you put on here that made it go grey?
White. White and black.
Black. That's it.
Mummy, that's a lovely picture you're making, Mummy.
Oh, thanks, honey. Do you know what it says?
No. Black, black and neck.
What name do you think that is, Sean?
Amelie.
Who's your other sister?
Maddie.
There you go. I honestly believe they're expecting to come home, you know, one day soon. Very much, when Madeleine comes back, we'll share our toys and, you know, if Amelie's wearing Madeleine's shoes, she'll say, well, these won't fit Madeleine now, so we'll have to take her and get a bigger pair of shoes when she gets home, you know. Come and get your dinner, guys.
I might come in a minute.
Well, just a minute. Don't leave it too long. You don't want it to go cold.
Kate abandonou o emprego como médica de clínica geral e fica agora em casa com os gêmeos.
What do you think? The Hollywood cheese sauce test.
Can you get my wellies?
Why, where are you going with your wellies on?
To the farm.
Oh, he can't really get you so big. Should try and give him some off here. A lot of the places that I go now, I used to go with Madeleine as well. So there's little things that trigger. You know, even like on the farm where we go quite a lot. You know, I can see Madeleine swinging on the rope in the hayloft. She was great, she was only 3 and she'd be like, you know, swinging backwards and forwards. You know, I can see her in the little sort of gypsy wagon that they had, asking me to come in. And that's hard. Get memories and it, you know, reality hits in again.
They're very greedy, those geese, aren't they?
That kind of tangible void, really.
Jerry regressou ao trabalho no Hospital Glenfields, em Leicester, onde é consultor de cardiologia.
Right, how have you been? How are you feeling?
All right.
How did you find the scan? Given the indefinite nature of what we're going through, you have to, at some point, say, I'm going to go back. Heart sounds very quiet. Chest clear, so there's no signs of fluid overload.
Do you think you've both healed a bit?
Healed is adapted, I think, is probably the right word. There's a scar, deep scar there that's kind of knitted at the minute, but you still think it might break or come loose, the stitches or whatever. But it is definitely an adaptation, I think. Have you managed the stairs?
No, I haven't tried the stairs. I've got it down in the lift.
Yeah.
Because the stairs is the thing that knocks me about more than anything.
Should we let Daddy in? What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Hello.
No.
Mummy!
You all right?
How are you? What's wrong? Okay. There'll always be a hole. And you know, we're living with this carrot that potentially she could come back. And I think that makes it more painful. That you don't know and that she's out there. and separated from you.
Put it in the dolly house.
Good. Let's go. It's less raw, less painful on a day-to-day basis, but it's still pretty painful. It's different.
No segundo aniversário do desaparecimento de Madeline, Kate e Jerry querem aproveitar o interesse da comunicação social para manter as buscas vivas na mente do público.
It almost feels like the last, I guess, media opportunity. We really need to think about that to get the right message out.
Os McCann estão a organizar uma série de eventos que visam descobrir novas provas, incluindo uma difícil viagem de regresso ao aldeamento de férias. Uma entrevista numa estação televisiva nacional dos Estados Unidos e, talvez mais importante ainda, uma visita aos maiores especialistas mundiais na recuperação de crianças desaparecidas.
We truly believe that this is what Madeleine McCann looks like today.
She's either out there or she's not. And there's nothing to say that she's not out there alive. So, it's simple. She's out there until proven otherwise.
Who actually is looking for Madeleine at the moment?
Hopefully lots of people in the general population, but in terms of an investigative strategy, then there's no law enforcement agency that is proactively doing anything. It's pretty amazing, really, when you think about it. It's a very serious crime, and we've got to do it.
Cleared as suspects, the investigation shelved. The parents of Madeleine McCann say they're relieved to be cleared of any involvement in their daughter's disappearance. More than a year after Madeleine vanished from the resort of Praia da Luz, the Portuguese authorities said they have found no evidence that the couple had committed any crimes.
We're not out making a fuss for the sake of it or to say things were done badly or could have been done better. That's not what we're interested in. We're not interested in looking back. What we want to do is look forward.
And you know it.
Clap your hands.
Mais ainda, há dois homens à procura de Madeline. O antigo inspetor Dave Edgar é o agente que lidera a investigação. Trabalha lado a lado com o ex-sargento Arthur Cowley. Ambos são pagos pelo fundo Find Madeline.
Given a really good description, and what I've done is I've made arrangements to go and see him on Tuesday morning.
I've inherited an investigation which is 18 months old. It's a massive investigation.
For me, it's quite simple. Whether it be a high-profile murder or any investigation, it's a jigsaw puzzle, and it's just a case of putting little pieces in, and that's what we're doing. You start at the beginning, you do the basics right, and everything else comes together, and that's what we've done.
One of the hypotheses would be that it's the parents that have done it. And it goes without saying. That's what I looked at, and I'm sure Kate and Jai understand that. We had any evidence that Kate and Jai were involved, that we'd hand it over to the authorities.
Do you find anything?
No. Nothing. Not a shred of evidence that they were involved.
When I had the interview for the job, I made it quite clear that I would only take the job if it was an independent investigation, and if there's evidence against anybody, no matter who it is, that we give that evidence to the police.
Do you work with different theories about what happened? Can you say what you think happened?
Well, the abduction theory is the main one that we're focusing on. If a stranger kills a child, or anyone for that matter, they almost always dump the body within a very close proximity of the crime scene. Now, this particular area around Praia da Luz has been systematically searched. The search was started on the night and continued for weeks and weeks, and no body's been found. So that gives me hope.
But what about if it was dumped in the sea? I mean, that's what most...
that's always possible, of course. But again, the sea quite often, gives up the bodies. But no bodies have been found. So I think that abduction is the most likely motive, most likely done by an individual on their own, most likely an individual who has close links with Père, and which is why we've focused all our efforts really on or most of our efforts certainly on Père.
Das centenas de testemunhas que se apresentaram, apenas uma mão cheia é da comunidade local. É com essas pessoas que os investigadores querem falar, portanto pretendem voltar à Praia da Luz e reconstituir os eventos-chave que rodearam o desaparecimento de Madeline, na esperança de obter uma reação.
That's it. Can you look down at your feet? Look down at your feet.
It seems hard to believe, but it's actually busier now than it was a year ago.
Has the balance changed because you're not working in paid work? And you've worked for most of your adult life.
Women do all the cooking and washing anyway, don't they?
So that hasn't changed?
I don't think so. It's funny because, going back a few years, if I hadn't been in paid work, I'd have probably felt a bit guilty. But now, what I'm doing is the most important job that I'll ever have to do. And I think my work is incredibly valuable.
Quando a polícia portuguesa arquivou o caso no verão passado, disponibilizou 30 mil documentos. Kate passou os últimos 6 meses a examinar cada um deles.
The vast bulk of it was in Portuguese, so we then had to get it all translated, which probably cost us about £100,000. I don't believe anybody's got the motivation that I have, and I was desperate to go through this myself, because I knew that I'd be going through it with a fine-tooth comb. And I have spent months and months and months and months going through it, evenings, weekends. And you want to go through it really, really quickly because I want to get all the information I can and know what I can do to help find her as quickly as possible. So obviously I just worked really hard just to get through it. Often, police do say the names in the files, it was always there. But you just need other bits of information really to come in to basically highlight the name. But at the moment there isn't a big arrow and an asterisk by the name.
O avistamento mais credível de Madeline e do seu raptor foi relatado por Jane Turner, uma amiga dos McCann. Dos registros, Kate também acredita noutro testemunho de uma família irlandesa cuja descrição é semelhante à de Jane, a menos de 1 quilómetro do apartamento dos McCann.
The reason why this is significant is both sightings were given independently. So when this family gave their statement, they weren't aware of Jane's description, and there's actually quite a lot of similarities. And it does beg the question, how many people carry the children on a cold night not covered, nothing on their arms or their feet, no blanket. Now either there's been 2 people carrying children in that way who haven't come forward to eliminate themselves, or potentially they're related.
But you think that child is Madeline?
I think there's a good chance it could be Madeline. Certainly the description there sounds to me like Madeline.
Kate e o coordenador da campanha Find Madeline deslocam-se à sede das equipas de busca. Querem discutir os detalhes das reconstituições, bem como 3 testemunhos-chave que mencionam um homem visto a rondar o apartamento dos McCann nos dias que antecederam 3 de maio de 2007.
The most important important ones, apart from the obvious of Jane, is side number 3, the man in the alouette at the back of the apartment. Number 3 is definitely a very important sighting because it links them.
Os investigadores examinaram os depoimentos das 3 testemunhas e estão agora convictos de que antes do rapto de Madeline, os McCann estavam a ser vigiados. A equipa espera que estas novas informações lhe deem a oportunidade de que necessita.
I think it's got to be the same person, wouldn't you, really?
And all 3 say that he was watching the apartment.
Yeah. We're here to discuss the pending reconstruction that we want done.
So basically it looks like we've got 5 sightings really, 2 a man with a child and 3 just a suspicious individual.
Yeah.
And the 3 with the suspicious individual kind of tying together.
They all tie in together.
Similar time, similar place.
Yeah, there's 3 in exactly the same location. I don't know what the Portuguese authorities have done to actually eliminate these people from the inquiry. So we've got to presume that they haven't done it and go with that. So it's just important that we're accurate in what we know and make sure that that's what we're going with. No speculation. It's got to be the facts that we know and not try to fill in the gaps that we don't know.
I mean, I'd like to go back, but not for this, to be honest. It's kind of just below the surface. And I just, I'd be scared, I think, to sort of open that up again, really, so, yeah. I think it's actually going through the scenario of that night as well, I mean, even what I can remember of the night, seeing Jerry that distraught, really, and sobbing and on the floor. I mean, I suppose I'm concerned that will surface again.
Kate fala com a testemunha-chave, Jane Turner, que concordou em acompanhar Jerry e os investigadores à Praia da Luz para a reconstituição.
Oh, we're okay, pretty busy. Although it's quite good, to be honest, to be doing stuff and focused, and it just sort of helps, to be doing something positive, so. How are you feeling about the weekend? I mean, I'm really nervous and I'm not going. Thank you very much, by the way. No, I know it's a big step, but we appreciate it anyway, so thank you. She's trying not to think about it, I think, because I think she just said, apart from the obvious emotional concern, she's worried about the reaction of people locally.
O regresso é controverso. A Praia da Luz era uma estância de férias popular para várias famílias, mas o rapto de Madeline alterou as coisas.
We're aware that, unfortunately, this has all been a headache, really, for people whose businesses are out there, their livelihoods. It's a negative. A child's been abducted from that area. And I guess in the ideal world, it would all go away, and everybody could move on with their lives. But, our little girl's still missing, so.
Sounds good to me. Which one have you got?
I think, regardless of what anybody thinks of me and Jerry, and I'm a bit past caring now, really, but, I think people do feel for Madeline, and that's the most important thing, and they want Madeline to be found and they want Madeline to be well. There has been a question as to why now, and I'd simply say, well, Madeline's still missing. Why not now,
I don't know if it is, actually.
Yes, it comes after that one.
Do you feel like there's a lot riding on this weekend?
I do, yeah. And I'm nervous. I'm nervous because I realise how important this is to do, really, to get that bit of key information. I'm nervous that it could get sabotaged or it could all go very wrong. And obviously I don't want that because it's so important.
We are desperate for this to be successful and to be done, and hopefully it might be 1 call, it might be 10 calls, but that's all it will take. It could be just one piece of information.
The offence was committed in Prédelouche. That's a simple fact. So you don't start an investigation in Morocco or Spain or even Lisbon. This offence happened in Prédelouche. It's a very self-contained resort, and that's where I think the answer is.
Dave Edgar chefia as buscas por Madeline McCann. Hoje está na Praia da Luz, no Algarve, para supervisionar as filmagens de acontecimentos importantes descritos nos depoimentos das testemunhas. Depoimentos que, na sua opinião, sugerem fortemente que alguém estava a observar a família McCann. Ele espera que a reconstituição permita descobrir quem era esse alguém.
They may have been watching the apartment for a week or more. I don't think it was someone random. In my experience, random just doesn't happen. Someone just doesn't go in, passerby, and pick up a child and take it. These things are planned. Okay. This scene, you're standing over there now, okay? Okay, and you're standing at an angle. This angle. Yeah. Action.
A primeira testemunha é uma turista britânica. Viu algo estranho pela primeira vez 4 dias antes de Madeline desaparecer.
I was walking along the road with my daughter when I saw a man. I grabbed my daughter's hand and pulled her towards me because for some reason he unnerved me.
Would that be good for you?
Voltou a ver o mesmo homem, desta vez perto do apartamento dos McCann, no dia anterior ao desaparecimento de Madeline.
The next time I saw him, he was standing on the opposite side of the road to the apartment. He appeared to be watching it. He was about 5'10", slim build and wearing casual clothes. Jeans, I think. I would describe him as very ugly, pitted skin with a large nose.
And as you're just passing here, this chap will be stood over there. So if you just, when you come up, if you just glance over at him.
A segunda testemunha é uma estudante que mora perto do complexo turístico. 3 dias antes de Madeline ter sido levada, esta rapariga encontrava-se com a mãe dela à porta do apartamento dos McCann.
I was walking to the school bus stop. I go this way to school every day. As I was walking down the road near the apartments, I saw a man on the small path behind the block. My grandparents used to live in that apartment, so I always look at it as I pass by. The man seemed to be looking at the balcony of the ground floor apartment. He was wearing a black jacket and leaning against the wall.
Também ela o voltou a ver no dia anterior ao rapto de Madeline.
I didn't go to school that day because I had an ear infection. I was walking up the road with my 2 dogs when I saw the man. He was standing on the road opposite the Ocean Club and he was staring at the apartment.
You've been coming from your apartment, which is over here somewhere. You turn the corner and walk down the footpath.
Well, the 2 of us.
Yeah, the 2 of you together. Okay, this is actually a sketch that was drawn by the witness at the time, and as you can see, he's just stood just where we are now and made eye contact with him, and then just walked straight on past.
A testemunha número 3 é um homem de Cheshire com a sua companheira. Prestou um depoimento à polícia no qual descreveu um homem que vira perto do apartamento.
I can't remember whether I saw the man on Wednesday the 2nd or Thursday the 3rd of May, but as we walked along the road, I saw a man standing next to the wall by the park area. On the opposite side of the road was a white van. I paid particular attention to him because he appeared to be focused on watching the apartment block. As I walked past him, I looked at him, and for a split second we had eye contact. But then he just carried on staring at the apartment.
We're asking for people to come forward with information. For me, one of the big things is in any sort of major crime, the perpetrators always confide in someone else. They've got to get it off their chest. And it's that person, as much as anything, that we're aiming at, that someone knows something.
Jerry está novamente na Praia da Luz. A sua chegada e as reconstituições estão a atrair a atenção da comunicação social. Mas para as pessoas que aqui vivem, isso gera uma tensão que dispensariam de bom grado.
This is an area that relies strongly on tourism and people's livelihoods are being affected, and I can totally understand when people are suffering economically and that they get resentful. But I hope they can understand as well that as parents we need to find Madeline.
A ira contida é evidente. Um novo cartaz de Madeline com a palavra "Ajudem-me" em português foi manchado com tinta e no complexo turístico de Jerry houve a hostilidade.
No one, even with a heart of stone, can take away that there's a little girl missing. Why anyone would not want to help find her is a mystery. And obviously, if we find Madeline, then everyone can move on.
Regressa ao Tapas Bar, onde comiam à noite enquanto as crianças dormiam no apartamento.
I can't remember exactly where the table was. It's kind of in this bit, so it'd be about round here. And I was kind of sitting in this bit. I think Kate was here. Well, you can see where the shutters are now, and the bit of the hedge that's growing. It was cut, a couple of feet lower than that.
Pela primeira vez em 2 anos, Jerry regressa ao apartamento 5A do Ocean Club. O último lugar onde viu a filha Madeline a dormir na cama.
And so I actually came in and Madeline was just at the top of the bed here where I'd left her, lying, and the covers were folded down and she had her cuddle cat and blankie were just by her head, and it's terrible because I had one of those really proud father moments where I just thought, I just thought, you're absolutely beautiful and I love you. And I just paused for a minute. And then I just pulled the door, closed again, and just about there. And I felt incredibly proud standing there and having, 3 beautiful children. Well, that's I think the most ironic thing of the lot, that momentary pause I had at that door, that's exactly what I felt like. A few minutes before our world was essentially shattered, and probably 3 or 4 minutes before Madeline was taken. And we obviously absolutely, what's the word, persecuted ourselves for not being here, and there is no doubt that not being here at that moment increased the risk of it.
Os McCann estavam de férias com um grupo de amigos. À noite comiam juntos e iam um de cada vez, de meia hora, ver se os filhos estavam bem. 2 desse grupo, Matthew Oldfield e Jane Tanner, ambos testemunhas-chave, regressaram com Dave Edgar para o ajudar nas reconstituições. Crê-se que Madeline foi levada pouco depois de ter sido vista pelo pai às 9 da noite. Nos 45 minutos que se seguiram, 2 testemunhas viram um homem que levava consigo uma menina A primeira foi de Jane Tanner. Tinha ido ver a sua filha doente quando viu Jerry regressar do apartamento. Este estava a falar com um amigo seu, Jazz Wilkins, junto à estrada. No entanto, Jane e Jerry têm uma memória diferente dessa cena.
See, I think you were about here. And I think you were standing like that, and Jez was there with his pram pointing down that way. Because I think if you'd have been looking at me, because I would have said something, because I would have said about, because Kate had been moaning that you'd been gone a long time watching the football.
I'm almost certain that when I came out, I came over and he was here, and I was like that. That's my memory of it, is like Jez is 6'3" or something and looking up, and then turning in when I finished. That's my memory of it.
Yeah, I mean, well, it just...
I mean, it's like I said, there are inconsistencies, you know, in every major investigation.
OK, that's fine.
Obviously, the most important thing is what you saw, Jane. It's not where Jerry and Jez were actually stood, because they didn't obstruct your view of the man you saw.
I was walking up here to do the check, and probably as I got to, it's hard to know exactly where, but probably about here, I saw the man walk across the road there, carrying the child. So yeah, I just got up and walked out of the tapas bar, past Jerry talking to Jez. That's when I saw somebody walk across the top of the road carrying a child. And I think I did think, oh, there's obviously somebody taking their child home to bed, but they didn't look like a standard tourist. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? It just looks so much like somebody abducting a little girl when you look at it, and I think it just looks so obvious when you know, but just look at it and you think, why the hell didn't you think there is somebody abducting a child? But it's not even a thought that somebody's going to go into an apartment and take a child out. You know, you're probably the one person that could have actually stopped it, and you think, oh, what if? It's that what if, what if, what if, and you can take those what ifs to ad infinitum, really.
I tell you what, if you stand here...
Às 21h30, meia hora depois de Jerry ter ido ver a filha, era a vez de Matthew Oldfield ir ver se todas as crianças estavam bem. Foi ao apartamento dos McCann, mas não entrou no quarto. Portanto, não viu se Madeline ainda lá estava.
Pretty much from the approach down here, you could see straight into the room, so you could see the cots as you were walking in. So it never really felt like there was any real need to sort of go all the way into the room. You could see both cots and you could see into them from there. I sort of ummed and ahed about the angle and things. All I just know is that I had an unimpeded view and it was just dead quiet, and just why I didn't take those extra couple of steps in.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying this earlier, that at no point other than that night did I go stick my head in. That was the only time, because the door was like that for me and I knew I'd left it.
And it's more that, you know, I felt like you'd done enough, you'd seen, it was quiet.
And part of the reason we ended up coming through the back was the noise coming through the front door. You just thought you don't want to disturb them. It's stupid now, but...
É possível que Jane Tanner não tenha sido a única pessoa a ver Madeline ao colo do raptor. Quarenta minutos mais tarde, a 800 metros do apartamento dos McCann, uma família viu um homem a levar uma menina para fora da cidade. Mais tarde, a testemunha julgou que poderia ter-se tratado de Jerry McCann, mas essa possibilidade foi investigada e eliminada pela polícia portuguesa.
The man was seen here carrying a child just before 10 p.m. on the night Madeline was abducted. When the man saw the family, he appeared furtive and veered off to one side and carried on walking. But obviously anyone carrying a child at night, it's really important. We need to find out who this person was.
I was with my family. We'd been out for the night and we were walking up this street when I saw a man and he was carrying a child. I thought they were father and daughter, so I wasn't so suspicious. The girl was about 4. She looked like my granddaughter, blonde hair, pale white skin, typically British. The man didn't look like a tourist. I can't explain why. It was probably from his clothes.
Someone knows the information, and someone knows who took Madeline, and someone knows where she is. Let's get moving. Let's get the phone ringing.
Em casa, Kate prepara-se para a inevitável atenção que a comunicação social dará ao 2º aniversário do desaparecimento de Madeline.
And this one, I think it's really sweet, and it's Madeline just when she arrived home from hospital to our house. I think she just looks quite cute. She's wrapped up in a little bundle. She's got those eyes, I tell you, those eyes that never closed. For us, they're not just photos, and especially now, having Madeline in our life, they're more than photos, and to me, each photo is very special. I mean, it's Madeline, and we've given out so much of our daughter to the world, really. You just want to be able to retain some of it. Are we allowed to see this one? Oh.
Do you think Emily likes chocolate? Who says Say yes, Daddy. Okay.
Do you still feel her physically as much as you did?
Well, I know the Madeline that I know. I don't know Madeline at, nearly 6. She might look different. She could be speaking a different language. She might have her hair different. She might have different interests, but, she's still our daughter.
I think that's too business-like, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, so put it that way.
Kate e Jerry preparam-se para uma viagem à América que esperam dará nova vida às buscas por Madeline. Além de uma entrevista no programa de Oprah Winfrey, planeiam visitar os maiores especialistas mundiais na recuperação de crianças que estão a criar uma imagem de Madeline aos 6 anos.
We're going to America tomorrow, and initially we're going to Washington, to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
Circulating the photograph of a child who was not quite 4 2 years later is not good enough. When we started this 10 years ago, the goal was to use technology to keep these cases alive, to provide new hope for parents and new leads for law enforcement. And we said at the time, wouldn't it be great if we could actually find one of these kids? And we found 900 of them. Every one of these 900 cases, the child had been missing at least 2 years. So what we've tried to do is to take your photos as a guide. Young children's faces change very quickly.
Yeah.
As you can see, she has her mother's jawline. She has her mother's mouth. It's striking. She has her mother's dimples.
That's me as well, isn't it?
This is you as well.
6.
Exactly. But Jerry, she has your nose.
Genes mix quite well.
They really do. They really do. I mean, it's a remarkable example of the best of genetics. So leaning heavily on heredity and using every tool we can find, we truly believe that this is what Madeline McCann looks like today. And we hope that somebody, that millions of somebodies will look at the picture, but that somebody will be moved to reach out and say, I think I have information.
At a glance, it's a different child. And that is really important. It's not the 4-year-old or nearly 4-year-old little girl. Because in our memory, we remember the last day she was in Portugal and what she looked like. So
it's a very emotional thing, really, to see my daughter in a different way to how I remember her. So if I'm honest, initially it was quite upsetting. And then I started to look at features and I thought, well, that's definitely Madeline. And that bit's Madeline, and you know, yes, she is 2 years older.
Despite the love and the care that you put into raising her, at that age, Madeline may not know she's missing. Madeline may have been told, well, now you're supposed to come with me. So we hope that other children will look at this. It's not inconceivable that she's in a classroom somewhere. The goal here is to reach out to people around the world and say, somebody knows something. Yeah. And if you do, call us.
Kate e Jerry precisam agora de tornar pública esta nova imagem. O primeiro passo é a viagem de Washington a Chicago para uma entrevista no programa de Oprah Winfrey, que será emitida em 144 países.
It's really important we get this image out as far and as wide as possible, because ultimately we don't know where Madeline is, and if she was moved out of Portugal quickly, she could be anywhere. And that's the main reason for doing Oprah. Get that image out there.
Nervous, but it's like anything we've done, you know, we're doing it for a reason, and the reason's to help find Madeline, so just get on with it.
How has your marriage been through all of this? Because a lot of marriages, a lot of people get pulled apart.
A child abduction, I think, could destroy any family. There's no doubt about it. It's one of the most devastating things, and then if you look what's happened to us subsequently, but we've been supported tremendously well, and I think that's helped us stay strong and stay together.
What do you want to say to that person?
It's not too late to do the right thing. You know, they can give her up, they can tell us where she is, they can hand her over to a priest or someone in authority. They can do the right thing.
Madeline should be with us. Madeline should be with her family. She's got a little brother and sister who want her back in her life, you know, and please, you know, if you don't want to think about Jerry and I, think about Sean and Emily, you know, and bring their big sister back, you know.
Look at your outfit. I haven't seen this one before. Superboy. Big muscles. Have you been eating all your vegetables?
I ate all my dinner and my tea.
Good boy.
So I ate all them up.
Have I got bigger muscles than you?
I think so.
Oh, don't know. Look at those. It's a great outfit. Where? Is there any milk in here and we could shake it?
Yeah.
I've got an idea. Yeah. Shall we do a milkshake with ice cream?
Yeah.
Sound better by the second.
I've not done one of these for ages, and then it'll be a real milkshake.
Yeah.
One each. Whoa! Right, carry that over to the table and we're going to milkshake it. I actually think there's not much more else we can do right now.
I think we've achieved a lot in the last few weeks. We're really hoping that somebody who's been sitting there knowing something will suddenly feel the courage and the compassion really to come forward. And of course we've also released the age progression image of Madeline now, age 6, and I think that's important because that's almost appealing to people who may know Madeline whatever Madeline's called now.
I think these have been a success.
So I feel we've all worked really hard. I think what we've done is positive and productive. I actually feel the chance of us finding Madeline is higher now. It's more likely to yield a result. And I actually feel a little excited really about what we've just done. So
I think it's that we want it out there now. You know, all the work's been done and it's all being coordinated around the anniversary, but we want it out and it's just, let's get moving. I'll make you a little vanilla one now, okay?
We just need that one person, there might be more than one person, but one person to come forward and say, I've seen that girl, or I remember something from that night, and that could unravel the whole thing.